it's just shifting that mindset. I mean, it's natural to be like self-occupied. That's normal when you're learning something new.
Yes.
But it's actually shifting to having that service mindset, right?
Yes.
Where it's how can I actually make their lives better? And when we get the attention off of ourselves, that's when we're really able to engage.
Hey, it's your host, Emily with Poppie Studios. I'm sitting down with fellow creative entrepreneurs as we share our wins, losses, highs, lows, and everything in between that comes from running your own business. So grab a cup of coffee and join the conversation. Welcome to this very special episode of the Launch Your Biz YouTube show. Today I am joined by the very talented calligrapher, lettering artist, workshop host, and coach, Justine Huang. I said that right?
Yep.
We talked about this earlier. I said it very like English, like Huang, but it's Huang. Her info's below, so you can find her.
It's all good.
She is the owner of It Just Flows. So welcome, Justine.
Thank you for having me. This
Yay,
is a good time, I can tell.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you on. She and I have been kind of back and forth in email, so I'm glad that we are finally together to talk about a really neat topic. And we were just saying before we jumped on how I think it's a really timely topic, especially in the kind of our creative communities. We're going to talk about how to use in-person workshops to build your business. And I love this idea. So before we jump into that, tell everybody a little bit about you and your business journey.
All right. Well, my main thing right now is calligraphy and hosting calligraphy workshops. And I started calligraphy when I was 8 years old. My mom bought me my first pen. I taught myself by tracing the form letters.
Aww.
And then I started selling greeting cards to my classmates when I was in grade 4. And I made rubber stamps made out of those styrofoam meat trays.
Oh my God.
And I sold those to my friends too. Why they would pay me money for that anyway.
You've been an entrepreneur forever.
It's from my immigrant grandparents who owned a restaurant. And anyway, so throughout high school, I sold hand-lettered snail mail address labels with the Pen Pal world back then. So it's, but I never really came back to calligraphy until I was an adult and took some classes. And I actually dropped out of my first class as an adult because it wasn't fun for me. I'm like, it should be more fun than this. So fun is really important to me when I host a workshop myself. But where it really came back to me was when I burnt out, and calligraphy indirectly became a part of my recovery process, where I just needed to find a way to slow down, journal, have meaningful reflections. And so that's where calligraphy in a more expressive form came back to me. But then I also for years did craft jams in my house. And naturally so you bring your own craft. But then I ended up through an Instagram post. A friend of mine tagged me in a post. She'd bought a magazine on calligraphy and she was like super excited. And I said, hey, do you, we can get together and I can teach you what I know from my 8-year-old days. And it happened to be November, and there was that friend and another friend who got in on that discussion online. We all have a heart for social justice. So I decided, the entrepreneur in me kicked in, and I said, well, it's November. Let's do a fundraising workshop. I'll teach the calligraphy, and then we can just do it by donation, since I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet. And so we raised a little bit of money, and we wrote some notes of encouragement that we donated to women in recovery. And that's still a part of the business that I do now. But it started like that. I didn't have worksheets. I didn't, I just it was like a fun craft jam, but with calligraphy. And since then, I've been hosting workshops mostly I'll teach the technical workshop, the technical piece, but it's really teaching you how to use a tool in your own personal life. So I'm not as much about teaching the wedding calligraphers. This is more about a process for yourself. And so I'll talk about it a little bit later, but really getting clear on what you're actually trying to give people in the workshop experience. And I'm not selling you art. I'm actually selling you a means of self-care. I'm selling you a fun experience. I'm selling you confidence that you can do this for yourself.
I love that. And that's a big part of your business too, and kind of your business philosophy, because we had debated about what do we want to exactly cover, but I think it all ties together, especially it's like the giving back and just self-care and self-love. Like I love that that's kind of your passion behind what you do. That's amazing.
And why do we start our businesses usually? It's because we saw a need, we needed it for ourselves, and then we want to share it with other people.
Right.
And that's no different here.
Right. And I think sometimes we kind of get lost in that. We start our craft because we love it. We want to give that love to other people. Then we start trying to make money doing it, and all of a sudden the business tasks just take the fun out of it. So
totally.
I think the coaching part of you is like helping people put the love back into it and give back too. Love that. Very cool. So thank you for sharing a little bit of your story. I think it's super neat. You guys go check out her website too. We'll be sure to include that link below. It's just, honestly, it sounds like cheesy, but it's really a lot of love in there and just a lot of self-love and just loving on each other. And I think we all need a little bit more of that. So
amen. Love makes the world go around.
It does. Yes. So today's topic, we're going to talk about, like I said, how to use in-person workshops to build your business. And the reason I kind of stress in person is because a lot of us are connected through like Rising Tide Society and other networking platforms like that, where we kind of just sit and type on a keyboard, put our request in, and we have lots of internet friends, but we don't necessarily ever meet each other in person. And there is a really big benefit to actually meeting and hugging somebody and seeing their face in real life. And I think that that's kind of the direction that you were going with about how to use in-person workshops to build your business. Yeah. So tell us, and I also know that workshops, especially here locally in Tallahassee, if there's kind of been some more people talking about whether it's a styled shoot or like a floral workshop, like more and more conversation about doing workshops. So kind of, I guess, explain a workshop process for as not only the person putting it on, but like what somebody attending could expect too.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to back up one step.
Yes, go.
To which you were already covering some of it, which is awesome. Just why would you want to do it? Because it is actually a lot of work. It's not as easy as, well, I mean, everything in business is more than you think, right? Because you just don't know when you've done something yet. But there's so much information out there on how to build an online course, which I think is also amazing.
Yep.
But there's a certain magic that can only be created in face-to-face connections, right? And that's something I love about the Rising Tide is they use the technology, but the real magic is actually in the face-to-face groups. And hence they put the support in for the leaders to create that experience for people. That's so important, right? But why would you bother with all this work to do a workshop, even if it's not the main part of a main revenue stream for your business? But I mean, it really is there's a few different reasons I can think of. One is you matter, and your expertise and your gifts are needed. And your gifts are a way to connect. Well, the world needs you to use your gifts. Let's be honest about that, right? Yes. And to be able to, there's side benefits then that happen as you share your passion and your skill with the world, is that you can build trust in a way that is deeper and faster than you would be able to online.
Absolutely.
And so doing that, but then also realizing, well, this is the missed opportunity that I see in a lot of workshops, particularly art workshops, where it's like you're at the community center or at the art college, and they're brilliant at what they do, and they're teaching their craft, but they're not thinking about the experience they're giving you. So I've gone to a lot of art workshops, and you're there to learn the brilliance of the instructor, but it's this awkward, you're sitting at the table and you're not really talking to the person next to you. Like, that's a missed opportunity.
And then you're kind of like left wondering, well, how do I apply this now? Like, what do I do with this knowledge now?
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's one of the reasons why I started my own lettering meetups, is because art classes, unfortunately, combined with my perfectionistic background, like, oh, I do art once a year when I pull out the special supplies, and you can't get good at it that way, right? You don't get the benefit when you only do it once a year. So just being able to make those connections, go, oh, do you want to, meet up later to do this together?
Yes.
And setting those dates with one another to do that, right? So and you're able to serve people in a way that especially if you're an introvert, there's something about being able, that's unique to your brand and your personality and all that people will connect with in a different way. Not everybody will, but there will be a lot of people that connect well with you, and they'll be able to experience your message in a way that's really personal. And then the loyalty and the ongoing relationship is I always call, that's where the magic really happens, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then it's also about, like, with the whole rising tide philosophy of community over competition, right? You are helping the whole industry when you're teaching other people your craft.
Yep.
Right?
I was just going to say, I think especially someone, you and I both have led workshops. We've kind of led styled shoots or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for the first one, for me personally, and probably you can a little bit for you too, you kind of, as the teacher, get worked up about, am I going to even teach them anything worthwhile? But really, you have to think about, am I going to teach them something that they're going to be happy to know, that they'll then use?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good mindset to be in if you're wanting to put on a workshop of yourself. One, you're bringing people together. And that's amazing. Like, that's honestly one of the most beneficial things you can do as a business owner, is bring people together.
Yeah.
Two, you're establishing yourself as an expert of your craft because you're hosting this workshop. So that's immediate, like, street cred, right?
Yep, totally.
And three, you're giving these people something that can bring them happiness. That's what you should be aiming to do. Like, provide them knowledge to make them happy. And go spread that love. I know it sounds like so hippie, but, like, it's true. Like, that's the most fulfilling part of being a business owner and doing a workshop, is to be able to, like, pass it on.
I love that you mentioned that, because there really is that, it's just shifting that mindset. I mean, it's natural to be, like, self-occupied. That's normal when you're learning something new.
Yes.
But it's actually shifting to having that service mindset, right? Yes. Where it's, how can I actually make their lives better? And when we get the attention off of ourselves, that's when we're really able to engage. Now, it takes time to get there. It takes practice and, all that stuff. But even, I think now vulnerability is kind of trendy. I don't know how I feel about the fact that it's trendy.
You're totally right. Yeah.
But it's also good, though, in the sense of, I don't have it all together. It is workshop style. I will share what I know, but you guys bring something to the table too, because you have different experiences and different styles, etc., whatever you happen to be teaching, right? And so It's more of a collaborative experience than it is about, I have, because I'm actually not that technical. I can teach you the technical, but, like, I really envy some of my wedding calligrapher friends and how consistent their work is, and mine's a little bit more, like, brushy and bold and messy, and and that's my style, right?
Yes.
But that's also part of what you're getting in a collaborative experience, where I spend a lot of time in my workshops helping people to celebrate that they have unique styles, and you're not trying to be like the person next to you. And I had a lot of joy robbed from my own experience when I was in workshops where I was too busy looking at that guy's paper. I'm like, what are you doing in the class? You already are an expert, and then that took away my joy, right? Yes. And so setting those expectations for what are we actually trying to do in this space, and celebration and fun has to be a part of it.
Yes. I love the two things that you mentioned, was kind of putting it out there that, like, I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know everything, but I'm helping as much as I can. If you know more about something, please share with the class. Because as a rising tide leader, I'm just basically, like, finding a place for us to eat and meet.
Yeah, that's right.
But I get a lot of people who come occasionally, and they'll interject and not in a bad way, but, kind of, like, put their 2 cents in, give their advice, and then at the end of the meeting, they're like, sorry, I hope that was okay. And it's like, it's perfect. That's exactly what you're supposed to do.
That's right.
I think that's a great thing about workshops too, is, like, come share what you know and take what other people know too.
Yeah, for sure.
Love that.
Yeah. So let's get into the actual how.
I was going to say, yes. Now let's get into the how. Now we got the why.
Sold you on it, right?
Yes.
And convince you that you must do a host workshop because your community needs it, and it'll be good for your business too. It's a lot of it is actually just taking the basic of good business principles and good marketing communications and applying it specifically to workshops. So starting with your client, right? What is their pain point? What are the things that you're constantly solving for them anyway in the other things that you're doing? The feedback that you're getting from them as you give your product or service to them.
Yes.
And start with what that they're struggling with, and that's easy for you to put together. Like, don't pick a topic that you're like, oh, I need to go research that, unless you really like researching and like the challenge of a new topic. But start with what you know. I think I'm all about strategy. As there's the exploration, but really starting with what you, as best as you can, something that is going to make sense for the rest of your business. So it's not something completely random. So think of it like it's your lead magnet. So it's like your freebie on your email, but actually connected to the things that you actually want to offer.
And it's a real life thing.
Yes, yes.
So
I'll give you a tangible example. I was coaching a nutritionist through a workshop that she was leading. So she helps people with like stress and emotional eating. So she had one workshop like that, but then she had this fun like tea making workshop. But we realized that that's probably not attracting that's probably better for a herbalist maybe to be doing that, even though she's, knowledgeable about it and it was fun. It's not as connected as the service she's ultimately trying to sell people.
Right.
So something like that. Thinking about, is there a natural pathway from that workshop experience to whatever it is that you're selling next?
Yes.
Right. Or also it could be something like if you're a wedding florist, for example, and maybe you want to serve the people who can't actually quite hire a full-blown florist, but you want to give them a DIY option, for example. It wouldn't work for wedding calligraphy because it requires so much practice, but like there's certain, think about your business and what makes sense for your business. And thinking about that later. And the other way to think about it too is if you do want to develop an online course for later, the face-to-face context is awesome for being able to find out what people's regular questions are, and just working out your stuff and getting real live immediate feedback that you might not be able to, that you won't be able to get from an online workshop. So that's another reason why to consider doing that.
I love what you brought up about, and it made me think, like you're doing a topic that, because you said, she does like the stress eating, but then was doing tea workshops. That makes me think of, I know some people who jump on like the latest trend and want to kind of capitalize on it, I guess, for lack of a better word. But then as other business owners, we look at them, we're like, is this a new offering they have? Why are they doing this? So I think that's something to keep in mind when you're thinking about it. If workshops and hosting in-person events sounds appealing to you, well, make sure you're not just like doing a trendy topic. Make sure it's something that like connects back to your business, like you said.
It's so easy to get caught up to. We're like, oh, so-and-so is doing that. And I do all these new calligraphy workshops and I'm like, actually, I want to spend more time on the community building piece and the heart center piece that I do. So it's always good to be asking those strategy questions. Why am I doing this? Does it serve my business right now? Maybe I can do it later or maybe never. It's okay to have an idea and not execute it.
Yes, we all got those. We all got a box in the closet full of those.
That's right. As creatives, that's our strength, right? We come up with 50 million ideas. But you can't create them all, right? So which are the best? With your limited energy, what's the one that will serve your business the best and serve your people the best, right? So if you can get that part of it done, the rest of it will help, because then it's like, well, what kind of experience do you want to deliver then? Knowing the topic is not necessarily, and being the expert is not necessarily translating into a good experience for people. Right? So really just envisioning, and think back to your own experiences at events and workshops. What did it feel like to be in a space that felt intimidating or unwelcoming? Right? What about a business workshop that was more like no nonsense about the information, which is great? Or are you going more for a relaxed, connecting vibe, right? And there's no right or wrong here. It's just really what's your brand and what would that look like branded to your business?
Yes, absolutely. And I think customer service ties into that too. Like, what are you already doing as a customer service? Like, are you doing handwritten thank you notes to clients? Like for me and my wedding photography clients, I send them a bottle of wine and a couple engraved wine glasses. That's my customer service experience. So like, how are you thanking people for being there, and how are you making them comfortable being there?
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of that is simple little things like, are name tags important? Right? Do you want people to be are they going to be breaking up into small groups and talking? If not, then maybe name tags are not as big a deal. Right? So it really depends on what your goal and the vision of the experience that you want. And if you're not clear, like I said, just start with think about good experiences that you've been the participant and the recipient. And what was it about those things that made it such a good experience for you?
Absolutely. How
Or
many
the
times have
opposite.
we,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
How many times have we like gone to a networking event and there's no sign in? It's just kind of like a mingle, and you walk in and you're like, are you here for the event? And they're like, no. And you're like, okay, who's here for the event? And then you're trying to find people and you feel very lost and confused. And usually, even for me as an extrovert, I usually just kind of end up getting my drink and standing in the back corner because I'm like, I don't know what the agenda is. What are we supposed to be doing? And you definitely don't want that. But I don't think we're also seeing like blow your budget and lavish them in gifts by any means, but make sure that it's organized enough and they know what's happening enough to have time.
That's a really great point too. And part of the experience is right from the beginning in terms of what's your marketing language on your Eventbrite or whatever, however or even your own website. How are you emailing them ahead of time with what to expect? What do they bring? What kind of vibe can they expect? Don't be nervous if you're not creative or you've never done this before. This is, I'm here for you. All that stuff contributes to the kind of experience that people will have, right?
That's perfect. Yeah, even email's free. Yeah,
no, it's true.
Email's free, and you can make them feel awesome by just sending them really clarified emails, like what's happening, where to park, what to expect.
Exactly, the parking, because it might be late if they don't know how to do the parking or whatever, right? I think there's a lot that you learn as you go along, but it's just thinking of your own experience of what was a good experience or what was a bad experience. I went to a workshop run by, they were new at it, I could tell, and they knew each other, so I felt like the crashing on a personal party, right?
Yes.
But it's not to their fault though. They were so new at it. They can, and I'm hypersensitive to that stuff just because I was the outsider for so long, moving around a lot, and that's why I care so much about helping other people to avoid that.
Love that.
So it really is just thinking through, brainstorming with people who would be in your ideal world. And say calligraphy is a good example. I'm on the lower end of the luxury. I'm somewhere in the middle, or not lower, but like in the middle of the market. So you don't take home like 50 pens. So I'm not going to charge you a really exorbitant price. I'm not going to have champagne and bubbly.
Right.
But I can see that, and I actually recommend some of my students, if they want a more elevated experience, to go to some of my calligrapher friends, right, who do offer experiences like that, right? It just really depends on who your people are and what strategy you're going for, right? So if you are trying to introduce people to build trust with you and you're asking them for $150 right off the bat, that might not be the best content, or you're doing too much in that experience. So try something a little bit more introductory, that's a little bit more, just a little more low key, just to test it out. And it's good to just start with something smaller anyway, as an experiment, right? Get your friends to come, kind
of like a bring your own.
Yeah.
And then if that goes well, maybe you could supply later on.
That's right.
I think that's the difference between starting out and taking it to the next step. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Like the bring your own, I'm just going to share with you what I know and how to use the like Crayola markers that you have and we'll make it work. Yeah. And then maybe a couple years from now, I will supply you a couple nibs and some really neat ink, but think about where you want to get and don't just dive into that, because you kind of got to establish yourself.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we've kind of talked about like how to pick your topic and make sure that it ties back to your business. We've talked about making sure that the actual event is very customer service oriented and just service oriented in general, and like giving back and sharing your knowledge. And then I guess the last thing I want to touch on in our couple minutes remaining is like, I think there's always the follow-up.
Yes.
So do you do any kind of follow-up? How do you like make sure that they're still practicing or still enjoying the knowledge you shared?
Right. That's a really great point or question. Email, we mentioned before, at minimum, an email thanking people for coming. If you said you were going to give them. So I send follow-up worksheets, for example.
Love that.
And even if I don't have future workshops, I will mention, if you're interested in a lettering meetup down the road, like just a practice meetup, or if you want, just sending resources to encourage them, right? If you're not actually hosting something, or if you know of there's a lettering group in Vancouver that's just started up. So I send people to them so that I don't have to organize that part of it.
There you go.
And so just whatever encouragements that they can. And then of course, like, if they're not already following you on social, you want to request that. Kind of. And if, just find, having a feedback form so that you can get feedback
Yes.
of what they found helpful or what additional questions or topics they might have. Because maybe you're still deciding if you're going to actually continue that or not, right? So then the feedback will help you to see if there's a need or what the extra needs are.
Absolutely.
But if it's just to, your introductory thing and that's all it's ever going to be, that's totally fine. Yeah. But how are they going to fit into your funnel of other services that you might want to offer them?
And you really, this is really something you need to think about. Like, I know when we start talking about funnels and follow-ups, people kind of like zone out and they're like, but legitimately, like, how are you going to use this in-person workshop to build your business?
That's right.
Follow-up is 50% of the equation, I feel like.
Absolutely. If not more.
Even just sending that email follow-up and letting them know and getting them on your email list, somehow capturing their email so that you can let them know about the next one coming up.
Yeah.
You gotta do the follow-up.
It's so true. There's so many missed opportunities when we don't follow up. And it's such a simple thing that will set your business apart for sure.
Yep, definitely. Mm-hmm. So is there any kind of like parting thoughts that you want to leave people with in regards to using the workshops? Anything like that? I would just say have fun with it. Explore. You're not going to get it perfect ever. You'll get better at it. But one of the things I love about hosting workshops is a different person. Each group has a different personality. Yes. Have fun with it. If you get some bad feedback, there's ways of dealing with that, but don't let that deter you. Right. But see it as a learning experience too, yes. Right? But have fun with it. And just, your people might end up telling you things that you new ideas that you might not have thought of. Right.
And so just be exploratory, but hold it loosely too. Like if it ends up being like, man, that was way more energy draining than I ever could have imagined. That's not for me. That's okay too. Yes. Right. So just go into it with an exploratory learning attitude and just a fun attitude and see what comes out of it. Love that. Thank you so much for talking today about this topic. I really feel like this is a really timely topic. I think we're going to see a lot more workshops and pop-ups like this come up, and I think we should. I think it really is a great way to just build community and share our knowledge and just, get to know one another, get to know the community you're serving. So yeah, love that. Totally. So tell people where they can find you. So you can find me at itjustflows.com. And if you want to, I'm not doing online calligraphy classes right now, but what you can expect if you follow me on any of my social stuff, mostly Instagram is where I hang out, and Facebook, is even though I teach calligraphy, I'm more about heart reflections, prompts, etc., things like that. Yep. Shifting your perspective about how things are going in your life. So it's more about that's what you'll find. You'll find inspiration on my account. And it is so wonderful because every time I see one of your posts, I stop and it just makes me go, in a good way. We need more of that. Thank you. But yeah, like any other creative, I've got many ideas. But follow me and I'm also starting to dish out more of the workshop coaching stuff. So community building, any of that kind of stuff, if you want to be encouraged in that way, follow me, connect with me, say hi. Don't be a ghost follower. Right. And any kind of workshop related questions, they can go to your site, sign up for your newsletter, or reach out to you there too. Totally. Yeah. Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Justine. I feel like this was a really good topic, and I'm glad we got to talk. I feel like we could have talked way longer about it, but I'm glad we got to do what we did. Thank you. It was a really good chat. All right. Well, until next time. Bye, everybody. Bye.